Hey guys, Khalid from Cricket Fanatics magazine here with another special episode of the On Lockdown series. As you can see on the screen, we brought to you a fan favorite, Wihan Lubbe. So today we want to get into a nice discussion with him, get to know him a little better, and for you guys to get to know him a little better. First of all, welcome to the show, Wihan.
Thanks, Khalid. I appreciate it. Nice to finally get on.
Yeah, nice to finally get on the good one.
Yeah,
Yeah, so let's have a chat. I mean, I think what makes it special with us is that we can just talk about things. We don't need to have an interview. So I just want to know what you've been up to with regards to lockdown. Obviously, with the shift now that you're making from the Lions to the Warriors, did you get some training regimes or training schedules from them? And did they give you anything specific with regards to cricket? I know it's your off season.
yeah, yeah. So we've we've been on a program. Ricky, who's the trainer at the Warriors, has had us on a program since basically the start of lockdown. So we've been busy with that most days of the week. Um, Apart from that, it's pretty much been a mixture of a little bit of studying, a little bit of reading, uh, watching some series. Coach has been quite good. He's sort of sent us quite a few links on stuff to read and documentaries to watch and stuff like that. So that's been pretty cool as well. So that's been keeping us busy most days.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
with regards to cricket, I don't know if you're gonna do a few things. What sort of things can you do in this period, like to keep your cricket skill sharp as a batsman and a bowler, obviously?
Yeah, we so originally obviously off season we didn't mind taking a bit of a break.
Hmm.
But few weeks ago, we started doing a few. Just so for me, I can only say so personally, I started doing a few hand-eye coordination things, just to make sure that that part of it sorted out. And then this week, uh, when we went to level 3, we managed to arrange with one of the high schools here in Clarksdorp to start hitting some balls in their indoor center. It's quite excluded from the school,
Hmm.
so myself and the two Janssen brothers have basically been hitting balls this week, um, starting to just not a lot, but just to get our basic skills back up to scratch.
Oh, with the Janssen twins. Okay, cool. That's pretty awesome. What does that mean? What does that
Yeah,
mean like? What does that be like?
yeah, it's been interesting. No, I enjoy the twins. I've known them for a while. I actually the first time I met them or got to do with them was when they were still in Gimmies. I was helping their coach out, coaching part time every now and then, just sort of throwing an eye and yeah, it's actually been very nice to be able to play and work with them as well. Obviously,
Mm,
seeing them grow from youngsters into, not that they're not youngsters anymore, but I mean
yeah.
from schoolboys to where they are now. It's been quite nice to see their growth and their journey.
Yeah, and Marco is going to be one of your teammates now, so it's going to be quite interesting. You coming
Yeah.
into that side, of course, as a senior. But let's before we get into those things, obviously, I would love to talk to you about that, about your move and about your history. But let's start with obviously this being a Cricket Fanatics channel. You guys are obviously the first and foremost fanatics because you guys are doing what you love. You were fans first, and you're doing what you love as a job and as a career.
Yes, yes.
So when you were a fanatic first growing up, who did you kind of look up to? How did you get into cricket, for example? What drew you in?
Yeah, so I think if I have to take it way back, I probably got into cricket just as any sport. My family were just sport sort of people. I think my mom's parents, or on my mom's side, her parents were sport mad. So that side of the family, rugby, cricket, everything basically runs through our veins. My cousin plays professional rugby, so I think we sort of all have always enjoyed most sports. Why cricket for me? I've just always had a love for cricket more than anything else. I think I've enjoyed a lot of sports, but since a young age, it's always been more fun than any of the others. So that's probably why I started, or how I started getting into it, is I got a cricket bat for my 4th or 5th birthday, and it sort of grew from there. And yeah, then after that, I, the first guy I can really remember idolizing or loved watching was Lance Klusener. I think left-handers who whack the ball, that was pretty much what it came down to. As I got a little bit older, Hansi Cronje became an idol of mine. Not just as a player, but the way he led. Obviously, certain things around him we won't touch on, but yeah, he's still someone whose leadership styles and skills I sort of look to and try and learn from. I mean, Auntie Esther, his sister, she's also sort of been a role model in her own way. I mean, she does a lot of good in cricket, and I think that part of it, yeah, it's always nice to see how different people do things and give back to cricket. So for me, that's always something I try and emulate. And then, yeah, more recent times, I think obviously again left-handers. I try and look at left-handers all around. So Matthew Hayden is someone I sort of looked at more because he's a tall left-hander who hits the ball. Sort of body language-wise, what he does, how he approaches that. Yeah, so he's probably the most recent player I would say I had a look at and sort of tried emulating. That was more high school, I would say, time.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
with regards to, give me some insight into your upbringing with regards to primary school, playing cricket there, and then moving into high school.
Yeah, so I grew up in Pretoria. I went to Constantia Park Primary School. That is actually the same primary school Janneman ended up going to, so that's quite a fun fact. But no, so Constantia Park, and then from there, I went to Garsfontein High School in grade 8 in Pretoria, and in my grade 9 here, we had a coach called Andre Seymour who played professional cricket at the time. Who was first team coach at Garsfontein, who would be coaching the under 15s at Waterkloof the next year. And at the time, Garsfontein cricket wasn't doing really well. So for me, I thought the move or the way forward in cricket in Pretoria and Northerns would be to go to, I want to say, almost a bigger school at the time in terms of cricket. They had Neil Stavilliers, who was head coach, and then obviously working with Andre as under 15 coach. That sort of drew me to go to Waterkloof the next year. So I was there for a year and a half, and after that, my dad got a job in Clarksdorp, and we moved. So we obviously the family moved with, and ended up doing my last few years of school in Clarksdorp High School, which was a blessing in disguise. I think the way things worked out, I don't think I would be a professional cricketer if it wasn't for that move. So yeah, things worked out well. Clarksdorp High School served me well, and yeah.
Yeah. What was it about that move that you think that made a massive difference in your cricketing career?
Yeah, so a few things. I think in Northerns, even Gauteng, there are so many good cricketers at schoolboy level.
Yeah.
That it's sort of difficult to stand out, and I think because of that, you never really, like, you're always in the mix, but you're never really sure if cricket's going to be the thing you pursue. Obviously, loved playing it while I was there, but I never played any of these provincial teams. I never made those kind of teams, which at the time you didn't even like. It was sort of shrugged off the shoulder. But looking back, if I had to stay there, it might have worked out like in a different direction for me. So when I moved, at the time I was playing for the first team at Waterkloof, but I was batting let's say lower order, 9, 10 at times, and I was bowling. So when I moved, I had just had a small little thing removed from my shoulder, so I couldn't bowl at the time. And Werner Fall, the coach at the time, Jacques' younger brother, he was actually the first one to come to me and say he doesn't need me to bowl, he wants me to open the batting. For me, that was unbelievable because prior to my grade 10 year, I always batted in the top 4. So that's basically what I wanted to hear. Um, yeah, so he sort of threw me in, made me, well, not made me, let me open the batting. And from there, he was probably one of the biggest differences, I would say. Um, I didn't make under 16. We had a under 17 provincial trials, and I didn't make the team. Obviously disappointed. I think at that age, you sort of start thinking more about where you want to go after school.
Yeah.
And cricket was obviously a sort of an avenue that I wanted to pursue. So a bit of a disappointment at the time. And he pulled me aside one day after training, and he said, "Listen, this is the way forward. This is how we're going to do this." He actually said to me, "I might hate him in a few months, but I'm going to play provincial cricket next year." And I won't lie to you, there were times when I thought to myself, "Gee, I wish this guy would get off my back," type thing. But the way he pushed me and got me to sort of understand that a good work ethic is what gets you into teams later on in life.
Mm.
Um, he sort of installed that into me, and I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons why I ended up playing cricket, is because he pushed me to a point where I got better and better and got so much more confidence in my own ability that, yeah, things worked out after that. I mean, I didn't play under 17 cricket the next year. I played under 19 cricket, and that was the first sort of, I want to almost say, sign that I was moving in the right direction, doing what Coach Vern was telling me to do. So, yeah, since then I've basically believed in or the way he's coached and the way he coached me, and yeah, that's made a massive difference.
Yeah. Obviously, you mentioned that now playing against some of the senior players. What type of senior players? Which senior players did you play against when you were younger?
Um, as in school or after
School, yeah.
school?
School. With regards to school, like obviously you said you skipped under 17 and said under 19.
Oh yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, not I mean when I say senior, I don't mean like
yeah,
senior
sorry,
starting.
just
Yeah, I meant
yeah,
I said it wrong.
yeah, no. So at the time, I'm trying to think. I think the the guy that sticks out to me the most, or the two guys rather, Devin Conway.
Mhm.
He was playing for Gauteng at the time, and then Bom actually played against us as well. So the first 3-day game I actually played for Northwest. We played against Gauteng at the Wanderers. So when he wasn't a senior player at the time, he was my age, or he is my age. So they had a pretty good team, and I just remember everyone raving about Quinny and Devon, and Bom scored
Yeah.
96 not out in the one innings and 100 in the next. So yeah, that was probably one of the most welcoming gifts I could get. Is you're not playing school cricket anymore. There's about 6 or 7 guys in the team that can take the game away from you. So yeah, at the time it was a good learning curve. Apart from them, I can't really remember many. Dale Deeb, I think Debo played. Um, yeah, so that's probably the most. Actually, you know what? Heinrich Clausen played for Northerns at the time. I
Mm.
remember he scored some runs against us as well. So yeah, there were quite a few good cricketers who were playing a couple of years up. So yeah.
So tell me about your provincial debut, etc., playing for Northwest, etc., and what that challenge was like. Obviously, you kind of made your name at provincial semi-pro cricket, and then obviously a Lions contract to win that game. But let's first talk about your time with your provincial side and what stood out to you over there, the competitiveness of it, and who really guided you through that period and really kept you believing that professional cricket, a contract down the line, is what's going to be my dream and what's going to be my goal, and that it's achievable.
Yeah. So my debut game, I think, was against Free State. Um, I batted 7 or 8, and I bowled 1 or 2 overs. So it wasn't a miraculous or a massively a momentum, like a massive moment in my career in terms of doing well. I didn't end up batting. So the debut itself, as a game, was probably not the spectacular one I was hoping for. But at the time, just making your debut was special enough. I think at the time, Rassie, Dwayne, Nicky, all of them were still playing for Northwest. So that's sort of to answer your next question. That was sort of one of my big driving forces. Is I saw Rassie, I saw Nicky, I saw Dwayne. I actually saw Dwayne come back from Pretoria, starting where we all started without playing provincial cricket, and he went from not being picked for Northwest to being picked for Northwest to being picked for the Lions to being picked for South Africa. And I mean, to this day, guys like Dwayne and Rassie are guys that I look up to, guys that I sort of use as driving factors. I think the fact that they made it at an older age than a lot of other guys do gives that bit of hope to players who didn't necessarily peak at 21 or 22, but they had a longer journey to get to where they wanted to go.
Yeah.
So they were probably the most influential. I think there were times in my Northwest career before Lions was even in the picture. There were times that were tough. There was a time when the systems changed a bit, and I didn't play for Northwest. After playing 3 or 4 games in my first season, I didn't play for Northwest for about a year, maybe a bit more even. And during those types of times, the players sort of we had at Northwest played a huge part. But also in times like those, the varsity coach Conrad de Swart, he also played a massive role. I think he threw more balls to me than many other coaches in my career. So I mean, again, guys like him who played a bit of provincial cricket in his day, he always found a way of, when we were down or when I was down, sort of just putting things into perspective and saying, okay, well, this is how we go forward. So yeah, I think I owe him a lot as well. But I mean, that just paints a picture that in Poch, I had a lot of people who were there, sort of to keep us focused on where we were going and not necessarily keep us hitting our heads against the wall that was in front of us, but finding ways of sort of moving around it. So yeah.
I mean, that's a great lesson to youngsters as well, that importance of resilience and keeping and believing in yourself until you get that opportunity. Because I mean, we also spoke to Steve Cook last night, who spoke about that particular thing, never getting picked, and then all of a sudden getting that opportunity and then playing for your test debut and then doing as well as he did. Someone like Rassie is also another good example for you. Obviously, you saw it firsthand at the Lions. And can you obviously, we're going to get into the questions in the comment section, guys. Don't get impatient with me. We will get into that. And a lot of them are going to probably be maybe similar to what I'm going to ask you. So we'll get into them a lot sooner. But I want to know, like, being in that line setup, when you finally got that opportunity, learning from guys like Rassie van der Dis and Riza Hendricks, even youngsters you could learn from, like someone like Bjorn Fortuin, maybe that really was kind of like a partner in crime for you in a way. And you guys had amazing opportunities, obviously, to see KG in action as well. Sometimes when he did come back, etc. So tell me about that experience and what you've learned from those senior guys and the Proteas guys that you would have interacted with. Obviously, guys like Temba Bavuma, massive figure in that side as well. So let's hear some stories about those things and some of the lessons you've learned from them.
Yeah. Firstly, my debut game, I came in for Wihan Lubbe in the middle of the game. So yeah, that takes the youngster thing right out of it. He got pulled up to the Proteas team midway through a game in Potch. So the wicket was turning, and coach, I think Jeff and Gordon were the 2 coaches at the time, and they actually decided to use the extra spinner for the second innings. So again, ended up bowling more in my first game than I ended up batting. But yeah, that was a great experience in itself. I'd been around the team for a while before that. Obviously preseason trainings and stuff like that. So it was easy to get into the side and into the environment in terms of the social side of things. But yeah, that for me was a massive honor. I don't think I'll easily forget that. We played against the Knights, like I said, and they had a good side. I mean, I remember Rudy batting and Cookie coming to me with a ball, and all I could think was, "Cheapest, this guy's not bad against spin. What am I going to do here?" So yeah, it was a nice experience. Yeah, learning from the Proteas guys, I think it's invaluable to say the least. The last year and a half, Timber and I have grown to get a good relationship, and I've sort of respected what he had to say and his views on the game a lot. Um, he's as a captain for me, he was very good. He just the way he spoke to me, whether it was batting or bowling, and the way he approached me, I really enjoyed, and I sort of felt that made me feel at ease. So learning from him in terms of chatting cricket's always brilliant. I mean, bowling to him in the nets alone, I don't think many players in South Africa play spin as well as he does. And yeah, just the way he approaches things, with such a calm demeanor, and that always sort of makes it easy and nice to chat to a guy and learn from. And like I said earlier, I think privileged to have had friendships with guys like Rassie and Dwayne, who I've obviously played with a lot at the times, but it just made it easier for me to go to them and chat with them about plans, and whether it's batting, bowling, or whatever the case may be, tactics on anything. It was just easy for me to chat to them. I think the environment at the Lions when I just got in was very similar to environment we had at the Northwest team when I just started out. So the transition for me wasn't that difficult, and I think I was very fortunate in that regard. So yeah, learning wise, basically everyone, to be honest. I mean, I hit balls pre-seasons. Dom was for a long time. Dom was the guy I would hit with because he's obviously another left-hander. So learning certain things, small things that you don't think make a difference, but if a guy at 140 all of a sudden starts swinging the ball into you late, if you're in a little bit of a bad position, then you're in trouble. And small things like that, Dommy helped a lot with. So yeah, I think whether it was a Protea or not, the environment was one of learning and helping each other out, and that was quite nice.
Yeah. So before we get into the comments, I just want to ask you one question. The move to the Warriors. So personally, for me, when I heard that it was happening, I think it's gonna open up a lot of doors for you. Is the reason that you left for more opportunity? What was the reason for you to leave the Lions? I know it was quite a bittersweet one for you because you have so much love for the Lions and what they've done for you. So just talk to me about that move.
Yeah, I think there's a few. There's never just one reason behind a move. I think there's always a few things that play on your mind. For me personally, yes, obviously the consistent opportunity would be one of the reasons why I'm moving down to PE.
Yeah.
Speaking to Shafiq and Robbie, it seems like that's definitely on the cards down there. I'm never under the illusion of rocking up and playing. I think you've always got to earn your stripes wherever you go, and that's fine. I mean, that's the way it works. So definitely playing opportunity will be one. Not that I didn't play much. Like I got fair opportunity in the One Day Cup this year with the Lions, which I'm thankful for. I think. So I'm not saying that I didn't get opportunities. I think it just at times it was tough with so many guys up and down. It's just basically a bit more consistency in that opportunity that'll be nice. And then yeah, there were one or two other things that played a role, small things, but yeah, it all adds up to my decision to move down. I think Robbie will be very good for my game in terms of the intensity he brings from a batting and a bowling perspective. Obviously, having a guy who's played tests for South Africa as a spin bowler first, that'll help me develop as a bowler as well as a batter. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the challenges he brings. He looks like from what I've felt with him, he's the kind of guy that likes to ask questions, and he's not scared of pushing guys from what I've heard. So I'm happy with that. I like that about him, and yeah, I look forward to that challenge down there.
Awesome. So to kick off the comments, let's start with Sadiq, who's as I'm gonna give him a lot of airtime today because he said he was very sad that he missed yesterday's episode and the previous episode. So I'm gonna give him a few questions to answer. He kicks it off by saying, "If possible, Wihan, when try and watch Great Gary Sobers, I know it's a big thing to say, but your style of batting is similar to Great Gary. So that's a great compliment. But let's
Yeah.
kick off with one of his questions. Is what is your preferred batting position in limited overs?
In limited overs, I'm pretty flexible, to be honest. I think since my career started at Northwest, it's always been a case of where the opportunity was, and that allowed me to adjust to where I had to fit in. I think last season in the Momentum Cup, I quite enjoyed batting 4-5. That was a nice position to get my head around. Um, because you sort of come in different situations, and there's always a challenge on the cards, whether you come in the 45th over or whether you come in the 15th. There's always something that you've got to work to get past. So if I had to choose specifically, it'll probably be 4 or 5, somewhere around there, middle order position.
Hmm. And for me, from my perspective, first class cricket, where do you see yourself?
Yeah, to be like, again, it probably doesn't matter too much. I've scored majority of my runs in 3 or 4,
Mm.
but in saying that, batting 5 and 6 is where I sort of grew up playing. So if I had to choose one position, it'll probably be around 4 or 5 again. I would love to say, yeah, let's just say if you get in with a team in trouble, I quite enjoy the challenge of getting a team out of that position. So if you 3 down quickly, 2 or 3 down quickly, it's quite nice to bat through and sort of find a way of getting out on the other side. So yeah.
Awesome. That's a great. That's something that we're looking for in players. Um, George wants to say, do you think one day you'll get a South African call up? I'm obviously going to say it. They need an all rounder.
So you've answered the question. I think, yeah, I think every single franchise cricketer thinks or believes that he'll play for South Africa one day.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think obviously, and my bowling coming along the last few seasons does give me that all rounder nod. So hopefully I can groove that and fine tune the bowling with a bit more consistency in the batting this seasons, and then you never know when that opportunity comes.
Yeah. So, Sadiq, you did answer that question of you over there with regards to that. Okay, cool. People call you more of a limited overs player, but I remember you scoring a big 100, something like 116 a 4-day game. Do you think it's unfair on you? Yep.
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit unfair to put me in a box of limited overs, but I think that's unfortunately the way things go in cricket. I mean, if you look at a guy like David Miller's 4-day record, it's actually quite good. People wouldn't say it because they look at him as a white ball specialist,
Mm.
but a guy like David Miller sort of proves my theory that just because you can whack the ball, it doesn't mean you can't play red ball cricket. I remember 2 innings that David scored 200s against the Lions in Poch a couple of years ago, and I remember thinking deep, as why aren't we looking at this guy? So yeah, I think it's a bit unfair to place anyone in a box, not just me. I think there are other guys like a Dom Hendricks who gets placed in a red ball in a 50 over box, whereas I've seen him play T20 innings that are out of this world. So I think it's unfair to put anyone just in one
Mm.
box. Yeah, I definitely believe that my 4-day games come along nicely. I actually think that my 4-day average is better than my white ball average. So yeah, you never know, man. It's possible that it ends up going that way and that white ball becomes the thing for me. But I'm definitely not writing off red ball cricket yet. I would love to play Test cricket for South Africa, obviously. So I'm definitely not stopping the work there.
Yeah, please don't. And then from Daniel, He wants to know how's it. Where do you see yourself fitting in the Proteas side if and when you do get the call up? Do you think it will come in shorter formats, and do you think you'll play as a batting all rounder? So it's kind of similar to what you've been saying already.
Yeah, yeah, no. So I think definitely, definitely more probably middle order at the moment. I think we've got a lot of good. Well, sorry, I'm speaking 50 over cricket at the moment.
Mm.
We've got a lot of guys doing really well up top. So hopefully, if that opportunity comes, or where I sort of see it coming, might more be. I almost want to say in a similar role to what JP had when he was playing, sort of a guy batting 5, 6, and being able to bowl a few overs where needed. So that's probably where I see my chance in 50 over cricket. Obviously, T20 cricket. I think T20s is probably where it's going to be more flexible. Obviously, the MSL batting up top worked out well for me. Um, I enjoy batting up front in T20 cricket. I think it allows me to express myself nicely. Um, yeah, and obviously, if you have a few overs from a top order batter or from a top 5, 6 batter in any format, it makes it a lot easier. So yeah, I think batting all rounder would probably be the aim for me. Well, I believe that's where I'll probably fit in at the moment.
I think you can get a trend over here from the fans that are just kind of playing selector themselves. All Proteas questions. Do you like to, to set yourself goals? And if you do set yourself a goal for the next season, what would it be? And do you set yourself a goals far ahead, like a year or 5 year plan, etc.?
Yes, I do. I I like goals because I think it holds me a bit more accountable. Although I don't necessarily like setting goals in terms of runs and stuff that I want to achieve in terms of scoring 300s or 400s in a season. I think that sometimes adds more pressure than anything else. So yes, I do have goals. I've got 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year goals that I set out for myself. Um, sorry, what was the rest of the question? I'm just trying to see.
Yeah,
Uh,
you
set
answering it.
yourself for the year. Sorry.
You are answering it, so let's continue on that line.
Yeah, no. So that's basically it. I definitely do believe that for me, it's always worked out well when I've set goals. I think it keeps me on track well. And then yeah, for the year to come, I don't like. I see said something about the Proteas in the next. So I don't like putting time limits on it. I spoke a lot to Jody Martins about it a while back. And I think again, if you put a time limit on when you get selected or when you get picked for a team, if you get closer to that time or to that end goal or that end time that you've set, I think it just adds more pressure than anything else. And for me, that's counterproductive. So I don't like to set a specific time. I want to play for the Proteas by then, or I want to play for this by then. I like I said, I do have goals, but they're not really oriented in that way.
Cool, that's awesome. How do you prepare before a game? Is there drills that you or techniques you use to practice big hitting, or just generally prepare? How do you do it?
So I try and do all my preparation and have it all done the day before a game. I don't like batting on the day of the game. So yeah, I'll make sure even if I have to hit a bit more on a day before or the day prior to a game, I'll do that rather than hit or do too much on the day. And it's just a personal preference.
Mm.
There's no specific reason behind it. I just don't like being in a specific frame of mind after hitting balls just before a game. Um, if I go out with an open mind and a clear mind, then things normally go well. Whereas if I hit balls before the time and I feel great and I get into the middle with that sort of, oh, I'm going to time every ball, all of a sudden you don't feel the same way you did in warm ups, and again things sort of go the other way. So for me, it's just a personal preference. But drills wise, hitting wise, to do some or to get into some drills, it's more for me. My head is the most important thing. So when I just started playing a lot of T20 cricket, Chris Gale was actually signed for the Lions, and he used to do only underarm drills in the nets, and I couldn't understand why. And after having a conversation with him, he says it's basically that he just wants to keep his shape and get into a good position, and from there, sort of the rest will happen. Obviously, he didn't just hit underarms, but that training session, obviously, that's the way it worked out that day. Um, so yeah, I took that on board quite a lot. I do a few underarm drills, or I do like underarm drills, let me put it that way, because I feel that if my shape is good and if my positions are good, whether it comes at 10 clicks or whether it comes at 100 clicks, I'm ready for it either way. So that's probably the way I prepare most. And then yeah, I think high pressure training as well. That's more sort of before days before games.
Mm-hmm.
Training at a higher intensity. Or I want to try and sort of simulate what I'd find in a game as well. So once those basics and those drills are sorted, then getting into a high pressure situation and sort of trying to simulate what you'd find in the middle. So that's basically how I prepare.
That's actually perfect. So this MSL question is I'm gonna add to it. So basically, they want
Okay.
to know what you learned from playing in the MSL. But I know that there was a period also where you were not at the Durban Heat, you were at other franchises, just learning and picking up. So I want to know
Yes.
first about that, about your learning processes over there and what you learned from some of the international players, and then going into your first campaign where you actually played regularly for the Durban Heat.
Yeah. So the year before was for me personally. I think I played 2 or 3 games only for different teams, but the learning I took from that year was incredible. I think we got to work with, when I was at Jersey Stars, I got to sort of, like I said, play and work with Chris Gale for a while.
Mm.
Um, the chats we had was based around how he would pace an innings a lot. We spoke a lot about that because people think he comes in and he strikes at 200, which at times could be the case. I mean, if he comes in on a day and he smokes you, then it happens. But my questions were based a lot around his first 6 to 10 balls. He always looked like he's prepared to leave, even if it needs be, to make sure that he's there. And he basically said that once he gets in, there's no boundary that he can't clear. And that's so true for many guys that can sort of hit the ball. Is that for me? I think sometimes I get a bit ahead of myself and I want to hit everything. Um, so just listening to him speak about how he would approach it was very, very good. And then yeah, similarly when I got down to PE was more, the learnings I took there was more from a mental approach perspective. I chatted a lot to Ryan McLaren down there. Just around the game in general, we chatted quite a bit. So that was good for me in one sense. And then working with Eric was nice to see a different perspective as well. I think these guys, obviously, they've coached the teams that they've coached and the people that they've coached for a reason.
Yeah.
And for me, he was sort of my first big time coach that I got to work with, and just how calm he was almost infectious. The way he approached team meetings and team chats and everything around the game, basically, I just found it so sort of nice to see how calm he was under pressure situations. And yeah, that's nice to have as a player, as a coach that's really, really calm. And we had the same with Gary this year at Durban Heat. I mean, we would sit on the edge of our seats for 10 overs and it would look like Gary's just ready to have his next cup of tea and carry on. I mean, the first game in this year's MSL tournament, obviously a little bit nervous before going out to bat. Before I left the change room, Gary had a quick 10 words to me, and after that I felt as if whatever happens here, I'm chilled. It doesn't really matter as long as basically you're doing what you do. So So yeah, I think that experience from a coaching perspective makes a massive difference for me personally as a player. It puts me in a great mind frame knowing that the coaches are calm and they sort of backing you from the top. So yeah, it's been a great experience. Both years, all three teams, I've learned something different, and
Mm.
yeah, you make great friendships through that, and learn even more after the tournament's finished. Because I mean, all of a sudden you can ring a guy up that's played however many tests. You're not a stranger anymore. You can chat to him about the game, and it's not just in the moment that it makes a difference, but I think it makes a difference in your career because now you can sort of click on that guy's button.
So me, I've got to watch you in the nets when you played for the Durban. I saw your practice sessions, etc. And I noticed something that was quite amazing to me, and it stood out to me was how much David Miller was in the nets trying to help youngsters like Marco Jansen, etc. And you yourself with certain tips and stuff, and the relationship that he had with Gary Kirsten as well. Like it's almost like they had this kind of in sync, like they knew, okay, cool, Dave, this guy helping with this. I think you're going to be able to. So just give me how he was like as a senior player now in that side, because obviously David was always that younger guy in the sides, and when he was playing for the Proteas, he was always like known as the younger guy. Give him time, he's younger. But now he's becoming more of the senior player, senior role in the sides, and I saw that at Durban Heat. So give me some insight into that. What was it like to be in the changing room with him, and in net sessions with him, and what sort of lessons did you learn?
Yeah, so I think you've hit it spot on. He's definitely not a youngster anymore. He was one of the more senior heads in our changing room. Um, to sort of sum up my or how I built my perception around David is summed up in a story, and that's we were obviously rained out quite a lot
Mm,
for the first few days of that tournament. I think we rained out 3 games or 2 games in a row or something like that.
yeah.
And one of the rainouts, we actually went and hit balls, and David at the time was struggling quite a bit with his back. Um, yeah, his back was in pain quite a bit, so he wasn't hitting on that specific day. And it was a basically it was a if you wanted to go hit a few balls, you go hit a few balls. If you wanted to chill, you chill type day. And I remember about half the team, if not more, going down into the indoors, everyone hitting balls, helping out, and something that again that that'll stay by me about David is the fact that with a sore back, with all the teams he's played for, with his name, he was the first guy in there throwing balls at the guys that
Mm,
wanted to hit balls. And I think that's just the way he was throughout the tournament. But I can't. It wasn't just him. I think that was just the way our team was built. Um,
yeah.
the Durban Heat last year. That's just the way things were, and I think that's why it was such a special team. I mean, guys like Kaya. I don't think Kaya played a game. Kaya was always the first one to ask you what you needed on a game day, or in situations like that, Kaya would always be there throwing to guys. So I don't think it's just Davey, but everyone sort of chipped in that regard. And yeah, David, Dane, all those guys are part of the reason why it was formulated that way. And yeah, like you said, Davey had it definitely looked like they had a great relationship, him and Gary. Um, I was privileged enough to hit a few times with David when Gary was sort of throwing at us, and just to sort of observe the way they communicated and spoke about certain plans and the way he was hitting or trying to hit. Um, yeah, you could just see it was sort of a stalwart coach and a stalwart player of the game
Mm,
blocking. So they were chatting about everything you can think of.
yeah. And a guy like Alex
Yeah.
Hales, an international superstar like that, what was he like? What was it like to be in around him?
Yeah, again, it was brilliant. I mean, like I said, him and Ravi both slotted into that environment beautifully. Um, it almost felt like the team had been together for a while, not just got together for a tournament. He's he's definitely a joker. I mean, he's not scared of pulling a joke or two. But no, I think the perception around him is sort of this party guy who just goes about his business and does what he wants afterwards. I didn't really get that from him. Yes, when it's time to social, he's not scared of social. But I think when he's ready to play, he's ready to play. I mean, he takes his game seriously, and that's quite obvious if you see the way he's done over the years. And he doesn't really mess around when he's at training. It's training time. I mean, that's one of the big things, is that it doesn't matter how many jokes you pull and how many pranks you try and crack over the course of the tournament. Whenever you walk into a change room or you want to train, that's what you do. You start training with purpose and you get out of there. So yeah, he's, again, like I said, there's you take learnings from every single player you play with, and he's no exception. So yeah.
Cool. Okay, George's question is quite interesting, but I'm going to ask it in a different way. I'm going to say basically, what type of player do you see yourself as? Because it's difficult. Those are very, very different. That's a massive spectrum between the two types of players over here. So, what type of player do you see yourself as?
Yeah, I think, again, probably if I had to put a name on it, it'll probably have to be maybe if I can go outside of a South African sort of frame, and it's not necessarily a guy I see myself as at the moment, but it's someone that I would say I'm trying to work towards becoming, if it makes sense. And that's probably a guy like Mike Hussey, what he was towards the latter part of his career, because it always felt like in the middle order, when he came in the middle order, he did a job. When he came in the top order, he did a job in T20 cricket. So there was always, he could sort of adapt to the situations really well. And I think, like I said, I think JP for South Africa has been that guy for a long time. I mean, towards the latter part of his towards the latter part of his career, he was, in my opinion, one of the best finishers in the game. And I don't think people gave him enough credit for that, for example. But at the same time, if he had to come in with South Africa being 50 for 4, he found a way of scoring runs. And that's sort of the type of player that I would love to become, is someone that can adapt to any situation that I'm thrown into. I think I definitely think that I've got the game for it. I just need to sort of find a way of becoming more consistent in doing that. And that's sort of why I've got those two guys in my mind straight away, and thinking that's sort of where I want to work towards. That's sort of where I see myself going in a few months, few years' time.
So that ties in perfectly with this fun question from Daniel. He says, it's the 2023 World Cup final. You need 12 of the lost over. A 45-year-old Tahir is on one striker's head. Do you back yourself to pull it off against Mitchell Stark?
Yes, I do. Because at the 2023 World Cup, hopefully Mitchell Stark will be rolling mid 130s and not mid 140s in the first case. So no, definitely I do. I think you have to. You only run twos if needed, because you never know what Imi's eyesight might be like in 4 years or 3 years time. But yeah.
Cool. This is an awesome question as well. Who are the toughest bowlers to hit out at the death overs in the domestic circuit?
Ooh, the domestic cricketer. I had a name come straight to mind, but he's not a domestic cricketer. So for me, domestically, I think Sisanda is really difficult to get away.
Yeah.
Magag's, just the way he's developed his game over the last few years, it's actually inspiring to see, because he's got so many different skills. He nails a Yorker when he wants to nail a Yorker. Yeah, definitely, I'll say Sisanda without a doubt. In my opinion, one of the most difficult guys to get away in the death.
Cool. And who was the first person that came to mind that you were speaking about when you said
Wahab Riaz? Yes. Yeah, we had them both in Durban, in that first Durban Cape Town Blitz game, and I think we had Ravi and might have even been David at the crease, and we couldn't chase down. I think it was 50 or something like that in 5 or 6 overs, and that just proved both of them how difficult they are to actually get away.
Yeah,
they just when they're on song, they're on song.
Yeah. So I'm gonna throw you off with a completely different question. 3 best movies of all time.
Jeepers. Okay.
And he made a joke. He said, "Bharat got 1 and 2 to 3."
I would love to say Bakhat, but I'm not a fan. No. So I was actually watching a movie the other day, and I thought when someone asks me this question, I've got to say this movie, but I can't remember the name of the movie now. So that's not going to work. I'll go with Miracle. I don't know if you've seen Miracle. It's
Yeah,
an ice hockey team,
yeah,
and that's purely for, like I said earlier, the coach I had in high school, Coach Vern. Um, at the time, his coaching philosophies were based a lot around what their coach was doing. So we only found that out years later. So I think now that's a special movie for me more than a great movie.
hmm
Um, I'm trying to think. There's so many good sports films that I really enjoy watching. I enjoy Moneyball, the
yeah.
movie. That was, for me, that was brilliant. I think it just sort of sums up that there's more than one way to skin a cat type thing in sports. So I really enjoyed Moneyball, both the business side of it and the sports side of it. Jeepers, and I've got to think of a third.
Come, let's try to figure out. Let me try to help you figure out what movie that other movie was that you were talking about. You can't remember the name. What was it? First of all, what was it about?
It's a sports movie. It's obviously it's always sports movies. That's all the sports movies are the ones that sit with you. Nah, I can't remember. So I'll just go for something plain and simple. So I watched Gladiator again a couple of times actually during lockdown. So yeah, I'll go with Gladiator.
Yeah, that's actually one of my best friends. That's his favorite movie. I watched the extended cut. Sure, I put myself through hell to watch that extended cut. I mean, I sort of just watched the normal one. The normal was long enough. I
The
normally,
normal is quite long, yeah.
yeah, I normally enjoy watch. I love movies. It's my favorite, my second, third favorite thing to do, possibly one of my favorite things to do. So,
Okay.
I watch a lot of movies, and obviously, that was one that I need to like. For example, I watched the extended cuts of Lord of the Rings, all three extended cuts of Lord of the Rings, and that's 4 hours each movie. So I can't watch a long movie. It's just something about Gladiator, the extended cut. I don't know what it was. I couldn't get through it. I watched it, but I enjoyed the shorter version a lot better. It was very well directed. As an all-rounder, what did you think of Ben Stokes' Ashes innings and World Cup innings? And if you had to pick one of them, which one was better?
If I'll start with the second part of the question. I think the Ashes one in my books was unbelievable. I don't think you'll see many of those. Both were obviously fantastic. I saw both. I've actually watched the highlights of both a couple of times. Yeah, that Ashes innings was just special. I mean, the pressure he did it under. Obviously the whole stadium was behind him, but I mean, I just think that situation. Not many times in our lives we'll see teams get over the line from there. So for me, that was unreal. Obviously, the World Cup was just as special. There's so much more on the line for them there, with them not having, if I'm not mistaken, not having won a World Cup at the time.
Mhm.
Um, there's a lot of pressure in its own regards. But yeah, I can't look past that Ashes innings. I just think that was probably, like I said, one of the best innings we'll see.
Cool. So this next one is from someone that you're going to see around a lot. On
Yeah.
Gamma, you're gonna see him around a lot when the new season starts. So what are you most looking forward to in playing for the Warriors?
I think I actually had this question just when I signed. Someone answer was that the thing that I'm looking forward to the most is not having to bowl at Marco Mare. Um, yeah, no,
Oh,
but no, I'm actually, like I said earlier, I'm looking forward to actually, to be honest, I'm looking forward to living in PE, but playing for the Warriors. I think there's always a sort of, I want to say, a sort of underdog feel about the Warriors. Um, they're never quite out of it type thing, and I think that's great for me. I love that sort of, like I said earlier, I like a good sports movie. So for me, that's the perfect situation to be in for a team to sort of come in and win a few trophies. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is sort of getting I think they've got unreal players. I think if you look at the squad we've got this year, we've got a really strong squad all round. So hopefully getting on the field with those boys and actually winning a trophy or two.
Awesome. Okay, and yeah, they've been so close so many times and shared ones as well. So I
Exactly,
think
yeah.
you're an excellent addition to that side. You're facing the last over of the innings, and there's a Lasith Malinga coming up the bowl at his best. Where are you trying to hit him? Would you back yourself to hit his Yorker at the ground, or go something with something cheeky?
Don't think I would scoop him. Yeah, I'd probably try and stay still. I'd probably look to hit his Yorker. I'd try and find a way of putting the one that he misses away. I think that'll be my plan. Is maybe go a bit deep in my crease or something like that, and then try and swing as hard as I can as soon as he misses his length.
Yeah, that's incredible. Actually, when I saw him play live, I was like, it's a completely different story to watch him run up and do that in front of you. It's like it's mind blowing. So it was quite
Maybe I'll hope there's someone like AB on the other side and I'll get one. That's what I'll do.
Do you remember the biggest six you've ever hit, and how far was it?
Jeepers. I'd love to say I remember a specific one. There was, yeah, maybe there is one. There was one. We still played B-side cricket at the time, and we played at the Wits Oval, and it was a 3-day game. A guy called Lazarus McQueen was bowling, and he was quite quick at the time. I think, yeah, he was probably one of the quickest guys in the striker setup at the time. And we were in trouble, sort of second innings thing, trailing by 30, needing to still post a score. I can't really remember what I was on, but I just remember them taking the second new ball. They needed 1 or 2 wickets, and coach sent up a message, "Now you go." And I can't really remember exactly what happened, but it was a short ball, and it's one of those where you almost hit it. You bowled it a little bit down leg, so you almost hit it with the angle. And with the new ball, it all sort of just worked with the wind. Everything worked out well. And I ended up, it ended up going towards the soccer stadium, that side of it. And I can't tell you exactly how far it went, but I mean, yeah, that sits in my head. Like I said, I don't know how far exactly, but
Yeah,
it felt like that must have been one of the bigger ones.
yeah. Who's the best batsman that you've dismissed?
Jeepers. Now I've got to think hard here. I don't wanna throw too many boys under the bus because don't wanna no. Let's just be safe and go with Aiden Markram. I'll go with Aiden Markram.
Okay, cool. I want to remind Aiden about that too. Okay,
Yeah,
so
ask him how as well, by the way. Ask him how I got him out as well. Just to be sure.
yeah, who's the best bowler you beat at the park?
Dale Steyn. Out the park
That,
meaning for six.
yeah,
Out the park, does that just mean for six? I just need to hit him for six.
yeah,
Yeah, then I'll go with Dale Steyn.
cool.
Definitely Dale.
How was it to bat against Dale? That must have been flipping insane.
For me, it was so special. I've got a picture. My dad sent me a picture just after that first Blitz game. My dad sent me a picture of Dale and I when I must have been 13 at the time, when he had our Tux Junior Sports Awards. Where I think I actually got a Bowler of the Year trophy from him, whatever it was. So there's a picture of a chubby little me and Dale. So yeah, for me that was special. I think he's someone that I've watched with fondness from a young age. So facing him was fantastic.
Cool. So the last two questions, Wihan, before we let you go. Any superstitions that you have?
Not particularly. I think I do like to clean my spikes before I bat. For some reason, that started working a couple of years ago, so I just do it now. If I don't do it, it's probably not the end of the world, but yeah, that's probably what I go with. And then I just put my left pad on first. It's something small, but I place my stuff so that I can put my left pad on first. It's not a massive superstition, but it's just something small.
But it's something to work with. So,
Yeah.
So Leo wants to know, how does it feel to play at the home of cricket, Stony Wood, guys?
I wish that was anywhere close to the home of cricket. Oh my goodness. It's just, you won't know this, but that boundary is about 55 meters long on the one side and 95 meters on the other side. It's
What?
next to an airport, so you've got planes coming in the whole time. And the day we played there, it must have been -3 with a wind chill of -7. So there we go. That's how fun that is.
Sorry, I have to ask this one for Marcus Janssen, but sorry, Marco, it's not you. So,
Oh.
who's your best under our body? I'm checking.
Duan Janssen, actually. I'll have to say Duan Janssen. Yeah, you see, he's just asked that for me to rub it in that his brother throws better underarms than he does.
Yeah, hey, guys are bloody
Yeah,
competitive.
you see.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
Vian, thanks a lot for coming on the show. I got to know you
No, it's a pleasure.
really well. I really enjoyed it. I know the fans enjoyed it too. I hope I can chat to you again in the future. We can catch up again.
Yeah, no,
Last,
anytime.
lastly, just a message to the cricket fanatics fans out there, and any message you want to give out to the cricketing public.
Yeah, no, thanks to what you guys do. I think throughout this whole series, you guys have sort of given players a nice platform to get to know each other, and the fans a chance to get to know all the players. So thanks for what you guys do. I think it's brilliant. And yeah, to all the fans out there, let's keep safe and hope that the cricket season starts soon. I mean, hopefully we can get on the park when we're supposed to get on the park and there's no delays. And then we look forward to seeing you all out there.
Cool. Thanks a lot to Fian
All
for
right.
all of this.
Thanks, Khalid.
Guys, so for the guys out there, you know what to do. Subscribe, send it to your friends, share this video, like it. Let Aiden see it so they can remind us also about that wicket. And also, of guys, of course, stay tuned to all of our shows. We've got a podcast on a Sunday evening that we're going to be doing. Go back and listen to Stephen Cook's interview that we had with Legends of Ravi last night. It was an epic episode where you can learn about the mindset of going into opening batting, etc. So just keep loyal, keep faith, and keep healthy in this difficult period and time. Safety to everybody, and I'll see you again soon.